Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle, and this is going to be a bonus recommendations video for you. I had so many books that I wanted to recommend that would fit the prompts that I had to do bonus videos, and so this will be one for you with some bonus recommendations. But first, I need to show you the book that I found for our M&M manuscript matchup game. In our previous video, we discovered that we needed to find a book that had a female detective that was set between 1980 and 2000. And I immediately thought of the Kinsey Millhone series by Sue Grafton. And so this particular one is P is for Peril. Kinsey Millhone is a female private investigator, and these books are all set in the 80s, and so there you go. And to make it even a double win, it was actually published in, wait for it, oh, this one's 2001, but all the earlier ones in this series are published between 1980 and 2000. Okay, so I have more recommendations for you for the person prompt. It turns out that I had a lot of books in my collection that have a person in the title, and I wanted to share them all with you, which is why I have created these extra bonus recommendation videos, and I hope you enjoy them. So, first up, I have a couple of Christie Commendations. The Mysterious Mr Quinn. This was published in 1930, and it's a collection of short stories, and it is very well titled because Mr. Quinn is extremely mysterious. There are 4 short stories in here that have a person in the title: The Coming of Mr. Quinn, The Soul of the Croupier, The Face of Helen, and The Man from the Sea. Another short story collection is Mr. Parker Pyne, Detective. This was published in 1934, and Mr. Parker Pyne is a unique kind of detective. This is the ad that he places in the personal section of the newspaper. Personal ad. Are you happy? If not, consult Mr. Parker Pyne. So he is a retired civil servant who has worked out kind of a system of happiness. It's very clever, very entertaining. And so there are 6 short stories in here that you could use. The Case of the Middle-Aged Wife, The Case of the Discontented Soldier, The Case of the Distressed Lady, The Case of the Discontented Husband, The Case of the City Clerk, and The Case of the Rich Woman. And I have a few in the historical mystery category. That's my favorite subgenre, so I always have a lot in this category. First up is My Lady Judge by Cora Harrison. This was published in 2007, and it is the first in her Burren series. The Burren in Western Ireland in 1509 was a land where the people lived peacefully by the ancient Brehon laws of their ancestors. On the May Day festival, the people of the Burren celebrated, lighting fires and singing and dancing through the night on the Mulliganore mountain, but then returning in the gray dawn to the safety of their homes. But one man did not come back down the steeply spiraled path. His body lay exposed to the ravens and the wolves, and no one spoke of him or told what they had seen. And when Mara, judge and lawgiver, came to investigate, she was met with a wall of silence. Marbeck and the Double Dealer by John Pilkington. This was published in 2012, and it is the first in the series. So this is set in 1600 in England. Marbeck, spymaster Sir Robert Cecil's best, if most undisciplined intelligencer, is called to unmask a double agent who's conniving with the Spanish. The Hangman's Hymn by P.C. Doherty or Paul Doherty. This was published in 2001 and is the 6th in his Canterbury Tales of Mystery and Murder. This is an interesting series. So he's taken Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales and he's chosen people from that story and given them a story to tell. So in this one, it's the carpenter's tale of mystery and murder as he goes on pilgrimage from London to Canterbury. So he tells a chilling saga of betrayal and deception and maybe supernatural murder that he witnessed as a young apprentice carpenter outside Gloucester. Squire Throwleigh's Heir by Michael Jecks. This was published in 1991 and is the 7th in his medieval West Country series. It's late spring in 1321, and as Sir Baldwin Furnesshill, keeper of the king's peace, prepares for his wedding, he receives the news that one of his guests, Roger, Squire of Throwleigh, has just died. The new master of Throwleigh is little Herbert, 5 years old and isolated in his grief, for his distraught mother Catherine unfairly blames him for her husband's death. As Lady Catherine's visible rejection of her son, Baldwin feels deeply disturbed about the new heir's apparent lack of protection. For having inherited a large estate and much wealth, the 5-year-old will doubtless have made some dangerous enemies. Her Highness's First Murder by Peg Herring. This was published in 2010 and it is the first in the Simon and Elizabeth series. It is set in 1546 and King Henry VIII is on the throne. Women are found dead, heads missing, dressed as nuns. When one of her own ladies becomes a victim, Princess Elizabeth decides to act. She recruits her friend Simon, a crippled young man, and Hugh, a captain of the Welsh Guard. The Jester by James Patterson and Andrew Gross. This was published in 2003, and although there are 467 pages in this book, in the copyright page, it says that it has been abridged from the hardcover version. So I don't know how long the hardcover version is, but whatever. It is set in 1096. You are about to begin the most thrilling James Patterson novel yet. Hugh de Luc returns from the Crusades to discover that his terrifying nightmare has just begun. Merciless killers have slain his young son, kidnapped his wife, Sophie, and destroyed his town in their search for a priceless relic from the crucifixion. Alright, and then I have a cozy mystery series to recommend. You could read any in this series because they all have a name in the title, and that is the Miss Seeton series by Heron Carvic. He wrote 5 between 1968 and 1975. The series was then picked up and continued by Hamilton Crane and Hampton Charles. Those are all pseudonyms, but I love that the series was picked up and continued because Miss Seeton is such a fabulous character. She is a retired art teacher, and this is the first in the series, Picture Miss Seeton. When Miss Seeton walks out of a performance of Carmen and witnesses a real-life stabbing, all she can recall is a shadowy figure. But how could even she have guessed that her latest artistic endeavor is a picture-perfect portrait of the killer? Her caricature, however, puts her in a perilous position, for back at her rustic cottage in Plummerton, she's fated to be a sitting duck for murder most foul. So this is a great series. They're funny with great side characters. So meet Miss Emily D. Seeton. Retired art teacher Miss Seeton steps in where Scotland Yard stumbles. Armed with only her sketch pad and umbrella, she is every inch an eccentric English spinster and the most lovable and unlikely master of deduction. Okay, and then I have some vintage vintage mysteries, classic crime, golden age, whatever you want to call them. First up is The Methods of Sgt Clough by Gill North. This was published in 1961 and it is set in Yorkshire. Sgt Clough is the only CID in the division, and so he is sent to investigate when the body of a young woman is found on the cobblestones of the town. This book is described as sparse, tense, and moodily evoking the unforgiving landscape. Inspector French and Sir John Magill's Last Journey by Freeman Wills Crofts. This was published in 1930 and it is the 6th in his Inspector French series. When Sir John Magill, the wealthy Irish industrialist, fails to show up at his hometown on a well-publicized visit, neither his family nor the Belfast police can explain his disappearance. Foul play is suspected when his blood-stained hat is discovered, and Scotland Yard is called in. With his characteristic genius for reconstruction, Inspector French evolves a gruesome theory about what happened to the elderly man, but his reputation and that of Scotland Yard will depend on finding out who was responsible. Who Killed the Curet by Joan Coggin. This was published in 1944 and it is one of her Lady Lupin series. It is set at Christmas in 1937 in a village in Sussex. When the curate is poisoned on Christmas Eve, Lady Lupin turns detective. Her deductions might not always make sense, but you'll be laughing too hard to care. And then finally, Inspector Queen's Own Case by Ellery Quin. This was published in 1956. Always outshone by his writer son, the inspector takes a case of his own when Ellery is away. The verdict had been accidental death, and only the victim's nurse had seen the one thing that made it murder. Recruiting a senior citizens corps of retired cops, the inspector tracked a murderer and found himself courting his own witness. No wonder he has been heard to mutter, "What's Ellery going to say?" All right, and then I have two in the police procedural category. This is the Inspector George Gently Case Files by Alan Hunter. You could read any from this series because they all, depending on which version you have Gently in the title. There are 46 in this series written between 1955 and 1999. They are set mainly in East Anglia and the main character is Inspector George Gently. This one was published in 1957 and it is the third in the series, Gently Down the Stream. The staff at Stowley's boatyard find their yacht burned beyond recognition with the remains of a client still aboard. And then the Frost series by R.D. Wingfield. Again, you could read any in this series because they all have Frost in the title. He wrote 6 between 1984 and 2008, and his detective is D.I. Jack Frost of Denton CID. Jack Frost is such a great character. He is described as coarse, insubordinate, and fearless. And one thing I love about this series too is it feels very much like how a real detective would work because Frost investigates multiple cases in every book. And so yeah, I can highly recommend this series. They're really good. So there you have it. Those are my final bonus recommendations for the person prompt. Have you read any of these books? Do any of them sound interesting to you? Let's chat about them in the comment section down below. Alright, so before this video closes out, we need to choose our next M&M manuscript matchup for our game. So, I've got my bag of M&Ms. We'll give them a little shake. Here we go. First M&M is red. That gives us the category of location. All right. The second one is brown. So, location, Europe. We need to find a book that takes place in Europe. Okay, third M&M is orange. That gives us the detective column. And our fourth M&M is also orange. So no repeats, I'm going to go again. Blue. So we need to find a professional detective. Okay, so for this round of the game, we need to find a book that is set in Europe with a professional detective. Good luck to you. I would love to know what you find. Put your answers in the comment section down below, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.